Hi, today I'm doing a review on the Voigtlander Nokton 40mm F1.2 lens. And this is for Sony E-mount, although I believe it is also available for Leica IM. And my copy is the stereo edition SE lens. This means that it doesn't have the clickable aperture ring, so you will always have that 1/3 stop detent with the aperture ring. Of course, this is a fully manual lens. I've had this lens for about half a year now, and I really love this lens. I really enjoy shooting with it. So I want to post a short video about how I feel about this lens. And of course, in this video, I'm not doing any editing. Due to basically I'm not really a YouTuber or reviewer of any sort. I don't have a lavalier mic. Actually, I do have one. I recorded another video just before this, and I was saying that I don't have one. I do have one, but I don't like to use it. So anyway, this is my review. So if the quality of this video is not top-notch, please understand, please excuse me for that. But I think I can provide, there's some interesting perspectives that I find perhaps could be useful for you if you are thinking about purchasing this lens. Now, first thing I want to say is that there is a forum called Fred and Miranda forum, where people have posted a lot of picture samples of this lens, and you can go there to have a look at their lenses, their pictures, and what they are talking about this lens. Now, I'm in this video mostly giving my reviews, my opinions on this lens, and I believe that it is one of the best lenses that you can find on the market right now, especially considering its focal length, which is quite versatile. And this is the first point I want to touch on, the focal length. Now, one would think that a 40mm lens is really not that conventional. You have 35mm, you have 50mm, and these are somewhat more classic lenses, classic focal lengths. And I think this has probably something to do with the frame lines of rangefinder cameras from yesteryear. And of course, with Leica cameras today, even though this lens is also available for Leica M, I believe it does not, Leica still doesn't have a 40mm frame lines, so that can be something that that is something you need to consider. But with Sony, this is not an issue. And in fact, while this is marketed as 40mm lens, it's actually a 42mm lens, and in all actuality, this is basically the exact diagonal of the sensor, which gives the standard of the standard perspective, which really makes it very versatile. It is slightly longer than a 35mm and slightly wider than a 50mm. And I find that it gives a, how to say, it's not as narrow as a 50mm, so it can be used for more shots, I would say. But at the same time, it's not so wide that a lot of times you need to think a lot about the composition. This is something that is very easy to use because its perspective is simply put very close to the human eyes, and that basically means that what you see when you take with this lens is likely to be what you get. It doesn't require you to calculate, to think so much about framing, because you are seeing what you are going to shoot. That's something that is perhaps interesting to consider. And of course, another issue is that it has an f1.2 maximum aperture. F1.2, that is great. It's very good for low light. I think, from my experience shooting with this lens, I think that it is not necessarily, it's certainly not perfect at f1.2. It can create images that look quite dreamy, people say. And I think this has to do mostly with chromatic aberration. This is certainly a more classic type of lens. Even though it has good resolution, in fact perhaps great resolution, it's not how to say, fully corrected lens, let's say. In that sense, it has quite a bit of longitudinal chromatic aberration, and it has quite a bit of horizontal chromatic aberration, lateral chromatic aberration as well. The longitudinal one actually is quite useful if you need to focus at f1.2, because you can see the color shift. When we no longer have these color, you probably are right on focus. So that's just something. It's just a character of this lens that you need to consider. But once you stop it down, a chromatic aberration becomes no longer a problem. Just one stop down from f1.2 to 1.8, it's already quite good. And f2. Let's say from f2, it is almost perfect. And in all actuality, in lighting situations where you don't have these high contrast edges, meaning that you don't have high lateral chromatic aberration, this is actually already very good at f1.2. I've taken a lot of night shots with this lens, and I found sometimes the image comes out clearer at f1.2 than it does at f1.6 or f1.8 or f2. Part of the reason, of course, is because the ISO, because at f1.2 it allows you to really to use a lower ISO, and this can really make a lot of differences. And of course, it also allows you to, in perhaps not night photography, but in the golden hours, it allows you to use a faster shutter speed, and that means that you have a higher keeper rate as a result. Focus is not that big of an issue, although it is something that you just need to get used to, because it is manual focus lens after all. And I think, well, you can go online and check a picture of it. You will find that between, for example, the infinity stop and 5 meters, there is not a lot of distance. And this basically means that it's just a slightest turn of the focus ring can cause you to lose focus, to lose critical focus. And it's something that you really need to take care of, to be really mindful of. And I think if there is a criticism that I have of this lens, perhaps it is this focus ring. I think it is absolutely, well built, it is absolutely smooth, it's just wonderful to use, but I would love if the focus ring had just a little bit more turn. Right now I would say this is probably, 120 degrees, maybe 120 degrees turn. If it had 180 degrees turn, perhaps it could be easier to focus at larger apertures. But of course, at landscape apertures, f4 and beyond, it is very easy to focus, particularly considering the 40mm focal length. But with it, I'm sure you will be interested in shooting a lot of wide open shots, right? At f1.4, f1.6, and perhaps even f1.2. And this brings me to another absolutely strong point, which I really love about this lens, which is its straight cut aperture blades. It has a 10-bladed aperture. It has a 10-bladed aperture that every one of them is straight cut, completely straight, and this really creates sunbursts that it's just beautiful. It is not something that can be replicated with another lens. Those lenses with rounded apertures simply can't compare in this regard. And of course, because it has 10-bladed apertures, the 10 blades will create a 10-pointed Sunstar, whereas if you had a 9-bladed aperture, you will have 18-pointed ones. And if you had an 11-bladed aperture, you get a 22-bladed one. And of course, those odd aperture blades will create Sunstars that have rays that are alternating between long rays and short rays. That's just not as beautiful as this. This creates a very symmetric 10-bladed Sunstar that is just beautiful, and you get it all from F1.4. And this was when I first got this lens. This is something that I didn't expect. And F1.4, for most prime lenses, that is wide open, and you get Sunstar that is absolutely well defined. It is clear. It is beautiful. And of course, if you stop it down a bit to F1.8, the Sunstar is just wonderful. At night, it is just it's great. And of course, this also has very good flare control. So during the day, you will also be able to create Sunstars. But of course, I think in those situations, you probably should landscape and probably want to stop it down a bit. And at that point, the lens becomes perfect. A lot of people say, from the aforementioned render forum, that this lens is perfect from f2 and on. I personally think probably even from f1.8 it's perfect, but certainly from f2 this lens is just very, very much beautiful. Now, let me think. I think, of course, another point that I need to mention, if you care about these sort of things, is that I don't know if it's unfortunate or fortunate, but anyway, this lens does not have weather sealing. It doesn't have those rubber gaskets. On the plus side, if you don't use it in adverse environments, this is going to make this lens more durable, because rubber gaskets, they'll dry out. Right? On the other hand, of course, you need to be very careful about it. You don't want water to get in the lens. So that's something you really need to consider. When using it, you get it anyway, but you should be very mindful about using it. Perhaps using some umbrellas or just the camera umbrellas. I've seen those on Amazon. You basically protect it somewhat. You don't just you use it directly exposed to the elements, because this lens being fully manual, even though it does have electric contacts, and it does send active data to the camera, and it does magnifies your viewfinder when you are doing many focus adjustments. It is just a fully manual lens, and with this solid construction, I think it has 8 elements in 6 groups, so not horribly complex. In fact, one of the simpler designs optically. It is just great for a lot of things photographically, and I think for enthusiasts this really is a great option. Of course, if you are a professional, if you need to shoot actions, this is not perhaps optimal. But if you want to just enjoy photography in its purest sense, if you just, or maybe you want to be more inconspicuous, because this is a very tiny lens. See, this is a very tiny lens. It's quite inconspicuous, and the attitude that people show towards you when you are shooting with this lens than with some big Sony lenses, right? It's gonna be different. When you're shooting with big Sony lenses, people think, ah, well, this is not a tourist. But when you're shooting with this, they think, okay, this is someone who is, you know, who is perhaps from the area, or perhaps an artist, or someone who, you know, the way that people approach you is going to be different. And this is something that a lot of photographers who shoot on the street are going to really love. This quality, and of course with pure manual focus at 40mm, if you shoot at 5.6, you can create some really nice, you know, street photography shots, and so that is also something that is there to consider. Alright, so I think I've said enough. That's most of what I have in mind. It's just a wonderful lens, made in Japan by Cosina, and I find Voigtlander to have some of the best value niche lenses on the market today of all the brands that I've examined, and I have examined a lot, perhaps not necessarily by hand, but I have this website that I do all the product feature comparisons, and I personally go over a lot of them. So I find Voigtlander offers some really interesting lens options. I would certainly purchase more Voigtlander lenses in the future, and I think I highly recommend it, simply. I will put a link to my website where I'll list some of other people's reviews and some of the product details about this lens. So if you want to check it out further, go there and have a look. And so that's it. And I apologize again for the audio of this video, because as I said, I'm not using a lavalier mic. I'm using an in-camera, and I think shooting in manual mode. I'm not really looking into the viewfinder, so I don't actually know how clear this video is. So I hope it is well exposed, and I hope that at least the information that I provide in this video is of value to you. Thanks again, and have a great day.